Good evening, Cessnox. I have the message that this hangout on air is live. I'm Fumbi from We So Nerdy. I'm here with Katie, and we are going to chat about tonight's newest Outlander episode, Down the Rabbit Hole. Katie, how's it going, my friend?
I'm great, and I hope that everyone's had a great week, and I'm so excited that you're back with us to talk about this episode. I really enjoyed it, so I can't wait to talk about it. And so, yes, I'm great.
Wonderful. Okay, so the same reminders that we always have before we get started. Friends, remember that our recap and review of Down the Rabbit Hole is live, and it includes a couple new images as well as 3 new clips from the episode. So definitely make sure that you click on the link below and go take a look. Katie loves this episode, and it's really good because Katie is the one who prepared the recap, and it's fantastic. So yay, Katie.
I really like, I'm gonna be all gushy about it because I did like this one a lot.
Good, as you should be. So that is the reminder that I have. Let us go ahead and get to the good stuff because Katie's flails should be shared amongst us all. We should all be happy and flaily. Okay, so in tonight's Outlander, we literally followed Bree and Roger, Alice in Wonderland style, down the rabbit hole as they journeyed back to 18th century Scotland. And interestingly, both of them got really rude introductions to the past, and they crossed paths with some of the series' most sinister characters. Well, maybe not sinister in one part, just really not likable. But anyway, while Roger linked up with Stephen Bonnet, Bree ended up spending some time with Leary. If you ask me, it was much more time than necessary, but we will get to that a little bit later. Either way, by the end of the episode, both Bree and Roger were on their way to North Carolina, on their way to see Jamie and Claire. So, Katie, you who love this episode, you are going to take the lead. You take the lead and guide us, my friend. For you, what were the key moments in Down the Rabbit Hole?
Well, I like this one, and first of all, I feel like I need to put this out here into the universe. I can understand why so many people didn't really kind of connect with this one, because it is a bottle episode, just only featuring Roger and Bree, and we do meet Bonnet. And we do see Leary again. And these are both characters that we do not like, that we do not have compassion for, that we don't want to see. And so there's all sorts of things that are sort of kicking this off on the wrong foot. For me, I think the redeeming aspect of this episode was the scenes with Frank, were showing him and Bree, because I think those are so important to understanding Bree's mindset about why she was so sure that she needed to go back to save her mother. It showed you a little bit more about what prompted Frank to make the decisions he made before his death. And I know a lot of people are like, I could care less about Frank. I could not care less about Frank too. But I think TV Frank is so compelling. And Fumi and I were just talking about this before we started. He is so, his love for his daughter is so incredible. And I love that. And I know Book Frank was a complete jackass and terrible person. And so Tobias Menzies, he elevates Frank so much for me. And I love that part.
And so I was telling Katie the episode, so the thing is, Katie was watching the episode and she was sending me these flaily texts, this is the episode. And I was really excited, because the truth of the matter is, after seeing the previews last week, I wasn't expecting that much out of this episode. I mean, I was going to watch it and it was going to be fine, but I wasn't expecting anything particularly new or earth shattering. So I'm getting Katie's text and I'm excited. I'm like, okay, maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe this episode is going to do something different. And Katie's in love with the episode. She's happy. Well, certain elements of the episode, right? elevate the whole thing. And then I start watching and I get to the end of the episode and I sent a 1-word text to Katie. Like, I think it's like 6:30 a.m. because I couldn't sleep. It was like
meh.
6:30 a.m. And I was like, meh.
Meh.
And that's the same because like friends, and we'll talk about it. We're going to talk about it. But like, I finished the episode and I was like, meh, I didn't really learn anything new. I agree that the parts with Frank were interesting, but to me, like, this is something that the books did really well, in my opinion. That is particularly focusing on Bree and Bree's time in Lollybrook, and Bree with the Fraser Murray family. I thought that part was done really well. Many things about the book are done well. I thought that was done really well. Bree's venture into the past, her initial venture into the past. And I just thought that the TV episode completely botched it. For what reason? To make Leary happen? Stop trying to make Leary happen. Like, for me, that's the punchline of the episode. Stop trying to make Leary happen. And I feel like they sacrificed something that could have been real, that was really meaningful in the book and could have translated, I think, really well to the TV screen for the sake of like elevating Leary. And I didn't like, that was meh. I didn't need that. So that was, usually I wait to the end to give my upshot of the episode. We give it to you at the beginning this week, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, might as well just like, but I agree. That was one of the disappointing things for me is I really wanted to see Bree spend more time at Lollybrook with Jamie's family, with the people that Claire has told her about. And when we got to that part, like, it was almost like someone pressed fast forward on the episode.
Yeah.
Because, Ian comes out and Joni's like, this is Jamie Fraser's daughter. And he's just like, oh my gosh, cool. Come on in. Let's get you some clothes. Let's get you some money. I know where the port's at. And I wanted so much more to see her interact with that part of her family. And instead we spent like 40 minutes with Leary. And I don't know what they were trying to do. Well, I know what they were trying to do. And
I think I also know what they were trying to do.
They were trying to kind of run this parallel with Leary and Frank.
Yeah.
Make you kind of feel some empathy or something towards Leary. But we've been knowing Leary. Like, there's no going back there.
Baby, you are my hoe girl.
I'm sorry. It was just like, no.
Exactly. But let's take this systematically as we try to do every week. And we're gonna follow Katie's recap because I think it does a really good job. So we're gonna sort of put together Roger's experience, his venture down the rabbit hole. Then we're going to talk about Bree and her experience, her venture down the rabbit hole, particularly as it comes to this extended interaction with Leary. And then we're going to finish up by talking about what I think both Katie and I would agree are the highlights of the episode, and that is seeing Bree's interactions with Frank. So Katie,
okay.
Roger goes down the rabbit hole, or he's on his way to jump down that rabbit hole.
Yes. So we pick up with Roger where Roger is, and he is with Fiona, and she's driving him to the Stones. And I think one of the first things I noticed about Roger, and I noticed this about like a lot of people whenever they shave their beards, I was like, no, because he's shaved now. And he kind of makes this comment about time travel not being possible, or quotes someone. And Fiona's like, for your sake, I hope time travel is a reality. Otherwise, you shaved your beard for nothing. And that was her voicing my feelings.
Yes.
It's not that he does not look nice, clean shaven. It's just that I was really feeling the beard. But I really love the part when he's walking up to the Stones and you can hear it. Mm-hmm. And he asks her, do you hear that? And she goes, the Stones aren't calling me. And I was just, they knew he was coming and it's time for him to go back. Like, I was so excited in that moment for him, and also really, really, really nervous because what's he going to fall into?
Mm-hmm. Agree. Like one thing that jumped out to me about this part, and I know my mind is sort of focusing on something else instead of what we should be focusing on, but like like traveling through the stones is really hard, and like I think about the way Claire describes it, like being like likening it to one time she was in a car accident. And you know what I mean? That feeling of sort of like discombobulation, like it's not a pleasant experience. So I wanted to see more of that in Roger and Bree's experience, right? Because like Claire, like when Claire goes back through the stones, like when she wakes up, she's like on the ground. You know what I mean? Like she's not okay. So I wanted to, like, for them, it was fine because clearly there are other things to get to. Like Roger has to start making his way, and of course Bree has to start making her way. So there isn't much time to do like an extended travel through the stones. I get it, but I just want to point out, not that I have to point out, I'm preaching to the choir. Time travel is hard. That's all I need to say.
Time travel is hard, and I think that we need to give Bree and Roger and Claire some props for not murdering someone at the stones in order to like make it work for them.
That is true. You know? Don't follow Gellis Duncan's example.
Yeah, like they had some bad examples, and good on them for figuring out a way that didn't involve that. But so he goes through the stones, and the first time we see him outside of the stones, we don't see Roger's journey from where he wakes up or where he comes out of the stones to the docks. The next time we see him, he's already on the docks, and he is he's got a mission in mind, and this is what he's going to do. And we find that he is trying to ask Stephen Bonnet for passage on the Gloriana to get from where he's at to the colonies. And this is like a really tacky thing to say, but I'm going to say it. Like, a lot of people died on ships during this time period, like in the journey from the Americas back to, England and Scotland. Anyways, a lot of people died on those journeys, but you're telling me this dude manages to make it to and from no matter where he goes, and he's always fine.
I am telling you. Like, Stephen Bonnet, there's like, I hate that guy.
Like, I can't stand him. Like, just look.
I hated that guy for years. And I mean, like, Ed Spielers, I really like, because I like him as an actor, and I loved him in Downton Abbey as Jimmy. But to have him here playing this character is just so it's discombobulating for me, because I've literally hated Stephen Bonnet for years, and the fact that he's on my screen now, and I am seeing on my TV screen like these series of events that play out that cause me to hate Stephen Bonnet. I don't like it, right? And the thing is, right, we've been known that Stephen Bonnet is a sociopath. And I think, unfortunately, Roger figures that out real quick. Real quick. I mean, in the context of the episode, like really quick.
And Stephen Bonnet, and like you were saying, the actor, like, I'm sure that he is like this really fantastic person in real life. Like, I'm sure he's nice. I don't know him. I just assume. But when I say I can't stand this character, like, I really, like, there's a different level of feeling when I see him.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is like what has happened so far and what is happening later, and what he is as a person. Because there's no good in him. And he does seem to kind of think that his code, this whole flipping the coin, it's very black and white. Like, if I flip this coin and it's heads, you can come. If it's tails, you're staying. And then later he does this again with Roger. The control he feels like he has, and this power and this complex where, he is God on this ship.
Yeah.
He controls everything. He is not the right person to have that power at all.
He isn't. Like, and you know, and like you see it in the passengers as well, right? So you think about when Roger is sort of like attending to his duties, and he's also like sort of not hanging out, but he's like, you know, saying hi to different people, like to young kids and stuff. And like he comes across Morag and the baby, her baby, and you know, Roger's having an interaction with her, and then Bonnet comes out of nowhere and like joins the conversation, and it like the dynamic shifts. Like Morag, like she closes out. Baby wasn't crying before. Baby is crying now because even Baby realizes that Stephen Bonnet is not someone you want to have in your vicinity, and he just like his energy is just bad. He's not a person that you want to have around, and even if you don't know him really well, you sense that from him. And then, of course, in the scenario when Roger wakes up to a scream and sees that Bonnet is like literally flinging people off the ship in order to supposedly prevent the spread of smallpox, that is in manifestation Bonnet's, I'm calling it depravity, but it's not like depravity. It's just like his lack of humanity, if you ask me.
Yeah, he's missing whatever it is that people have that allow them to empathize or connect or to be able to understand something else. Now, I understand you don't want smallpox on your ship, like pretty much everyone would die if that happened. That would be bad, but surely there is a better way to handle things than like pushing a little girl out of the captain's window like you're dang Jamie Lannister knocking Bran out a window.
Oh my gosh, Katie.
Like you need to like, oh my goodness. But I mean, seriously though, like the emotion in that look of, oh well, I was just like, it was jarring.
I know.
And I think that Roger is this really lovely person, and he's got a good heart, and his introduction into the past is something that I don't think that he could have ever prepared himself for.
No.
Especially running into someone like Stephen Bonnet straight out of the gate.
Yeah. And I mean, like, even I just think about in that scene, like Stephen Bonnet, are you a medical professional? Like, even though Stephen Bonnet said that it was smallpox, for real, I don't believe it. I don't believe that it's smallpox. I believe he saw something, a rash, that led him to believe that you know, he decided that he wanted to, as you said, sort of play God and make this decision and throw this girl out. And the thing that's just so like that is a really heartbreaking scene. But like, they're holding the mother back. The mother is screaming at the top of her lungs. He pushes the girl out of the window. And what does the mother do? She just like, no hesitation. She runs and she jumps out right after her little girl. And you're just like, why did this have to happen?
Then immediately after it, he's like, go and get everyone who has this rash or these symptoms and bring them to me. And people are getting pulled up out of their beds from where they were sleeping. And like you said, there's no telling if this is really smallpox or if this is just, maybe they're overheated from being in these tight spaces with all these people and their faces are flushed. Like, I don't feel he's making, you know, very precise decisions. Yeah. I think he's just like enjoys what he's doing. And then you have Roger, who's, I'm not going to let him, you know, hurt you or the Baron, you know, come with me. I'll make sure to get you food. I'll get you water. I will save you. And we have Morag
Mackenzie. Okay, guys. I don't know. Katie and I were talking about this beforehand, and we were like, this is definitely a spoiler. If you've read the books, you know this, but this is definitely a major spoiler. So we just wanted to, like, for the next, like, minute and a half, you can, like, if you don't want, spoiler alert, major spoiler alert for, like, the next minute and a half to 2 minutes. Major spoiler alert. So pause here and skip forward. Pause here and skip forward. Because Morag Mackenzie is like Roger's ancestor.
Yes, like she is his. Well, she's Dougal and Gaelus's son. She's married to Dougal and Gaelus's son,
Yes.
right?
William Buckley Mackenzie.
And so that makes the little baby
Jemmy,
Roger's like direct ancestor.
Yeah.
So essentially, he got on this boat, and we're all sitting here going, "Oh my gosh, Roger could have picked a different boat." But if he had not been there, there's no telling where that would have left him.
Yeah. So I was talking to Katie earlier, and Katie put it in a really sweet way. She was like, "Roger just saved his bloodline." That's what Katie said, and I was like, "We have to talk about this tonight, even though it's a spoiler."
He did, and he doesn't like. I'm sure that there's a part of Roger who's like Mackenzie. Maybe they're somehow distantly related to me, but to know that he saved a direct descendant, man, like. Look at Roger, just saving the day, just going out on a limb. And that's why I like Roger so much.
Roger's a good guy. Roger's a good guy. And the interesting thing is that, like, we come across William Buckley Mackenzie, and we will talk about it. We will talk about it later next season, but it is nice what Roger has done, but he is not paid back in kind for what he has done tonight, and let us leave it at that.
Yeah, things happen, guys. So he's saved Morag. He has made sure that Roger has made sure that he's given them food and rations, and I don't really think that you can keep things secret from Stephen Bonnet, because he seems like the kind of dude who just has eyes everywhere, and he would always find out and be able to use it against you. And so Roger goes down, he's giving Morag food, some water, just checking on her. And that's when Stephen Bonnet makes his appearance again. And during this scene, the first time I watched it, and even the second and the third time, I still felt like I couldn't breathe, like I was holding my breath, because like Fumi said a minute ago, like when he comes into a scene, it's almost like the atmosphere changes around him.
For sure.
And whenever he's talking to Roger about, if he's a betting man, if he explains why he flips his coin, we kind of get Bonnet's own trauma, like why he sort of adopted this way of decision making, and about him being a 17-year-old boy, and them the kind of crew that he was with deciding that they needed to have a sacrifice to bless the foundation of this house so it wouldn't come crumbling down. I mean, honestly, it's probably better that they went with Daft Joey, because if you like killed someone evil like Stephen Bonnet and put him underneath the house, I don't know how well that house would have stood up. So, I mean...
or they should have buried him with the foundation. Gosh.
Well, I'm sitting here going, like, I don't feel like... I mean, it would have been good, because then we wouldn't have to deal with him now. But also, someone's house could have caved in on him. It depends on whose house it was, I guess.
Katie.
I'm trying to look for silver linings here.
Always.
But if you look in that episode, or look at that scene in particular... He gestures with his hands. He talks with his hands a lot, sort of like I do. And you look, and on his finger is Claire's ring. And you all, like the other rings on his fingers, are very feminine in nature. Like some of them look like women's rings. And so it's almost like he wears the trophies of the people that he's either, I don't know what he did to these other women, besides steal from them.
We presume some sort of assault.
Yeah, like I assume that he's probably assaulted and killed these women, or hurt these women in some way that's absolutely awful, because that's who he is. But he's wearing Claire's ring. And I was offended.
Yeah.
I was really offended, because like I can't stand him. I really have nothing good to say. But he flips the coin because he tells Roger, you know, heads you live, tails you die. Because Roger thinks at first that he's going to kill Morag and the baby because they've been hidden. And Stephen Bonnet says, no, you're the one who stole the rations. You're the one who took the food. I'm not going to kill them. I'm going to kill you. And Roger kind of looks shocked and really scared because he's like, that makes sense, I guess, but also I wasn't expecting that. Mm-hmm. And so he flips the coin. It's heads again. And he just has his own code. And it's like the coin being heads up was just like, you're okay. You know, he says, Duma was smiling on you. And I looked that up and it's a Celtic goddess of wind and wisdom. And so that's who he also said earlier when the whales were kind of brushing up against the boat, you know, you just pray to Duna that they'll go away. But I guess Stephen Bonnet's crazy and awful, but he does have a very limited set of rules that he follows with his coin. Like, I don't really know what to say about him besides I feel really bad that this is who Roger got stuck with. Yeah.
And that's what it boils down to me. That's what it boils down to for me, is that ever since Stephen Bonnet came into our lives, our meaning the Fraser Mackenzie's lives, he has been a life ruiner of epic proportions and just disrespectful in multiple ways. And that continued tonight. And from the preview we saw for next week's episode, I have every expectation that he will continue to be a life ruiner, and I will end next week's episode being like, I hate you, Stephen Bonnet, the same way I feel now.
I don't think there's anything that's ever going to change my feelings for him, ever. And like you said, the preview for next week's episode, this week, I liked this one. I think next week, my text messages that I send you are going to be just full of me cursing. And I'm trying to think of the episode this season that I've also sent you where I just spent, it might have been Lord John Gray's episode.
No, but
I think this is going to be worse than that.
We will cross that bridge when we get to it. But for now, we know that Roger is alive. Morag and little baby Jemmy are alive, and they are making their way across the ocean to the new world. Hopefully they get there safe and sound. So that is where we sort of wrap up Roger. Okay. Not in the best place, but okay. And then we jump over to Bree, and Bree has arrived through the stones. She's arrived at Craig na Dun, and she is making her way. She's trying to make her way to Lallybroch. And I just thought, it's an extended scene of her walking, right? So there isn't much going on. But I thought it was really nice to sort of see her with her map, and she's sort of trying to orient herself. It was an experience.
Yeah, that's what I would call it. It was really pretty, and it was an experience. But that whole scene, until she collapses, where she's just sort of walking, and she gets super excited, and she just face plants and rolls down a hill, and then she's hurt. I mean, if I've ever saw some version of myself in a television show, it was that right there. And I'm sure she's better at a map than me, but I just don't feel like we were 100% prepared for this journey. I think that she had an idea of where she needed to go and what she needed to do, but much like how I am, we think things will be so much easier without these obstacles happening. And then all of a sudden things pop up and you're passing out in the woods from dehydration and exhaustion. And then you wake up and some Leary's house. And
okay, Bree did have a map. She did have appropriate monies, and she did have matches and a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, right? So she did the small preparations that she could do. And it's not like she could bring, like, you're limited in sort of what you can bring with you through the stones, I assume.
Oh no, I'm just saying that, like,
you know, that first night in the woods where it's true she was hurt, but she was able to make a fire for herself. And she had that peanut butter and jelly sandwich, which I thought was just adorable. I mean, it doesn't matter. I don't even know why I mentioned it twice. I did because I thought it was adorable. But agree. Perhaps it went on for a little too long. Perhaps that sort of scene went on for a little too long. But you know, she did have a goal in mind, right? This house that she kept seeing in the distance, and like she's trudging towards it, and she passes out. And as you said, Katie, the next time she wakes up, she's there with Leary. And you're just like, why? That's what I was saying. Like, why? Why did this need to happen? But the thing is, like, okay, and I said this to Katie. Guys, I don't know about you. You guys will have to tell us what you think. I thought the entire time that Leary knew who Bree was. And this was just some sort of like grand conspiracy, some sort of grand deception in order to like kidnap Bree and keep Bree hidden from the Frasers and the Murrays, which I know I need to calm down and let Leary live. I know that I need to calm down, but I thought that was my instinct.
There's no reason why you should have thought anything else. Like, I mean, honestly, she's not given me any reason to like believe that she has these, you know, noble intentions. And that's one of those things that we talked about. Like, Leary has never been the person that you like. Like, even in season 1, she's, I don't know how to explain her, but like she like in her mind, she rewrites the way things are.
Yeah.
And she rewrites them in a way that makes her the victim in a lot of stories and makes Jamie also this victim. Like, Jamie can't decide things for himself. He was bewitched. He was, you know, his heart was hardened against her. You know, without anyone else in their life, they would have been happy and in love. And she can't accept truth.
Yeah.
So she just rewrites stories to make herself, I guess, feel better. Or, I don't know.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that comes through in the encounter that she has with Ian Murray as well, right? That was unexpected. That like Ian comes by once a month in order to deliver whatever money Jamie has sent, and Leary is very unhappy with the money, the money that Jamie is sending, and says so, right? That, you know, he left me here by myself. You know, we're starving. What are we supposed to do? You know, we can't eat his promises or something like that. You know, we need the money. And even when Ian tries to give her additional money, she's like, no, I have my pride. You know, it isn't your money I want. It's his money I want. And it's like, well, you can't have it both ways, Leary. Like, either, like, you just can't have it both ways. If you need help, you accept it, right? Which I think contributes to what you're saying, Katie, which is this sort of narrative of victimization, right? This narrative of me being a victim. I don't have enough because she stole him from me, right? And why, you know, why should I accept help from anyone else? I deserve my alimony. I should get my alimony, and anything else isn't worth it. Right? Or isn't what it's supposed to be. And it's really unfortunate. Because again, I feel like the writers keep trying to, and I don't know, guys, if I go too far, tell me I've gone too far. That's fine. But it just seems to me like the writers keep trying to make Leary happen. They did the same thing like when Leary, when they went to Simon Lord Lovett's place, to get him to join. Jamie and Claire went to get him to join Bonnie Prince Charlie. But Colin showed up to get Simon Lovett to like not join, and Leary randomly came along, and this was supposed to be like her redeeming episode, and it's like, no, I finished that episode still not liking Leary, and tonight you like put her in this interaction with Bree, and she's nice, she feeds her pigeon, you know, the daughter is there, we're telling stories about Naomi and Ruth, and it's like wonderful and nice, and this is supposed to be like Leary being redeemed, except for this small thing that she like tried to have Claire killed and still tries to have Claire and her offspring killed. Stop trying to make Leary happen. Sorry, guys.
But we do see Leary. I mean, she does treat Bree kindly. You know, she feeds her, she gets her back on her feet. We see Bree kind of bond a little bit with Joni. Especially over, you know, their parents' marriage, because even Joni sees it, because Joni says he didn't love my mom like she loved him. So Joni, this child, even recognized the fact that this relationship was very one-sided. So for this little girl to be able to recognize, my dad didn't love my mom that way, but meanwhile, Leary is over here and, you know, she's behaving quite delusionally about Jamie. But I thought that scene was nice, where also Bree was like, you know, my mom didn't love my dad the way he loved her.
The Bree Joni bonding.
And so we kind of had that little moment between them that I thought was nice. But if you think that other people can't see a situation for what it is, then, you know, you're kidding yourself.
Yeah.
Because Joni even knows that, I mean, I might be completely misremembering, but Jamie didn't exactly live with them, right?
No, he was in Edinburgh.
So I know Leary wants her money, and, you know, he promised to give it to her. Jamie's an honorable man. And then she's like, honorable? If bigamy is honorable? And I'm like, oh, you need to slow your roll. Calm down. But Jamie and Leary never had the marriage that she's kind of painting. And so it's just, I don't know. It was a long time to spend with Leary.
Yeah.
For the explosion that happened.
Like, I think for me, getting to spend time with Leary, for me, I think it was really cool to see Joni. I thought it was really cool to see Joni, and I thought it was nice that Bree and Joni were able to have their they were able to bond a little bit, and they were able to sort of realize or sort of talk about the ways in which life sort of moves on. Even if you don't necessarily have a dad in your life who like your birth father isn't necessarily in your life, there are other people that come into your life that sort of maybe not fill the gap, but can help to sort of help to be your network, help to be your circle, and help to be your support. And it was very clear, I think it's very clear to Bree that ultimately it becomes clear to Bree that Jamie was that for Joni. And I thought the moment that when they're like sitting in bed together and like Leary is telling the story of Naomi and Ruth, I thought that was really sweet. And like Bree putting the flowers in the hair and like Bree helping to fix the cupboards. So I get it, right? Like Leary sort of outside of this Jamie Claire situation, Leary does have the potential to be like a reasonable individual or like a kind individual. Like I would not say Leary and Stephen Bonnet are necessarily, I wouldn't say that they're necessarily on the same level. I do recognize in Leary a humanity. I recognize in Leary the fact that she is a good mother and that she does care deeply for her children and want her children's happiness. But when it comes to Jamie and Claire, she loses it. She loses it when it comes to Jamie and Claire.
She does. And honestly, like everything you said, like she is a good mom. She's been a great mom to Marcelly and Joni. And we talked about, I believe, last season, kind of empathizing with her about her situation with her first husband, or her husband, the father of her children, leaving, and saying that she did try and do whatever she could for her children. But to go to what you said, when it comes to Jamie and Claire, she loses all reason.
Yeah.
And seeing as how this is Jamie and Claire's story, it's very hard to get a picture of Leary being calm and reasonable, because everything always comes back to Jamie and Claire. Because even in those moments when she's talking and being kind to Bree, there's an underlying bitterness to her, especially about men in general.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she says, I hope that, you know, my daughter finds a good man someday, if one exists. And Bree is very optimistic, but I think that everything that has happened in Leary's life, which is kind of spurred on by this obsession with Jamie and this kind of him rejecting her, has made her very bitter.
Yeah.
And that does affect a lot of her actions and decisions, because as soon as she finds out Bree is Jamie's daughter, the kindness is gone.
Yeah.
She could, I mean, at that moment, she sort of, you know, she doesn't care what happens to this girl. She goes so far as to make up stories to plant seeds of doubt in Bree's mind that, oh, you know, I wouldn't want to gossip, but you should hear this from me first before you hear it from the people at Lollybrock, saying that Jamie didn't want her, saying, I mean, I saw glimpses of a goodness in Leary that is immediately just doused by the fact that she can turn on a dime and be so just so malicious with her words.
That's what it is. It's that malice, right? Because as soon as she found out who Bree was, she was going to hurt her. She was going to hurt her, right? And when it be so, saying these things like, you know, actually, you know, the rumor is that your dad had, you know, sent your mom away because she didn't want you, right? Or like, and when it turns out that her words aren't working, right? Because Bree is like, actually, you're delusional. The truth is Jamie Fraser never loved you, right? What does she do? She then spits out, you know, your mother should have burned at Cranesmere, and you're the spawn of a witch, so I'm going to have you reported for being a witch, right? So she locks her in the room and is like, I'm going to have you turned in for being a witch. And that's just it's like things went from 0 to 100 like that. Just because why? Because of Jamie and Claire. And that lack of reason when it comes to those two is it's just so evident. It's so evident. And it's I don't know what I think about it. I know what I think about it. I don't like Leary, but it's just that I don't know what else to say about it. I don't know what else. Well, I did want to say that I thought it was important to acknowledge that that Leary's first marriage was an abusive one, and that it's possible. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I do think that Leary was sexually assaulted, was physically as well as sexually assaulted in the context of her first marriage. So I recall Jamie telling Claire that maybe I'm conflating the books, but I seem to recall Jamie telling Claire that it's a result of that even in the marriage between Jamie and Leary, they weren't physically intimate, right? Because she had had this experience in her first marriage. So, I mean, Leary definitely has had her own trauma, her own very legitimate trauma. But again, when it comes to Jamie and Claire, she can't see straight.
And that's the truth of that. Yeah. But then you have Joni, who is this sweet, really lovely girl, and she comes and rescues Bree. and she takes her to Lollybrock, and she's just, this is where the whole episode, especially for Bree, just started like fast forwarding for me.
Well, can I just, sorry, I didn't mean that.
No, go ahead.
I just, before, no, never mind. You go ahead. I can come back around.
Are you sure?
I'm sure. Please. I shouldn't have interrupted. I apologize.
No, you're fine. No, I was just gonna say, like, they're in the wagon, and Joni looks at Bree, and she's like, you're a good person. You got a kind heart. It's not your fault. Your mom's a witch. And I mean, I really just loved Joni in that moment. It was just like,
it was reasonable, right? It's reason. Like a child cannot be responsible for what your parents may or may not have done, right? And Joni has that reason and can see it and be like, my mom is wilding out. Don't worry. I'm gonna free you from the room. I'm gonna take you to your peoples. It's gonna be okay. It's not your fault. Your mom was a witch, but we're gonna be okay. Like Joni can see that, but her mom cannot.
Exactly. And that goes back to her being able to go, my dad didn't love my mom the way she loved him. Like Joni is this like voice like of reason that's right here going, can't blame you for your mom being a witch. Can't blame me for my mom having issues. Let's just get you where you need to go.
And that's what it is.
And I'm just like, this child has so much responsibility on her shoulders right now.
Oh, Joni. No, I thought, seeing Joni, I thought was quite nice. But the truth of the matter for me, as I said at the beginning, there's no reason why we need to spend 30, 35 minutes with Leary. There's no reason, maybe even 40, 45 minutes. There's no reason why we need to spend this much time with Leary. And I thought it was interesting. I mentioned this before. I thought this was a part of the story that the book did really well, which was Bree's initial venture to Lollybrock. Because in the book, spoiler, in the book, Bree knows that Leary is the one who tried to have Claire burned at the stake at Crane's Muir, because Bree is the one who exposes Leary to the Fraser Murrays. Right? Like Bree is the one who reveals it, that, this is the bitch. I'm pretty sure she called Leary a bitch in the book, guys. I'm not just saying that. She's like, this is the bitch that had tried to have my mom burned at the stake. You know what I mean? So I wonder why do the writers make the decision to have Bree so in the dark about Claire's experiences while she was there? Because Bree seems to know some things, but not other things. And I'm just curious as to why that would be the case. And I think all this for me ties into the situation that I wanted Bree to have way more interaction with Lollybrock folks. And Jenny. And folks have already been saying that that Laura Donnelly was unavailable, right? So of course, Bree wouldn't have been able to have this interaction with Jenny. It would have been spectacular, because it was spectacular in the book. It was spectacular in the book because Jenny was horrible. Jenny was horrific, if you ask me. Folks, we could talk about it. But to me, Jenny in the books was horrible. She was so concerned about keeping Lollybrock for her son and her family that she would do anything to get Bree out of Lollybrock immediately, right? And it was really self-serving in a way that I didn't necessarily expect from Jenny. But Jenny is a Mackenzie, so never mind.
That accuracy.
But I just wanted more. And I get it. Writers, you can't given actor schedules, you can't just manufacture stuff out of the air. I get it. But gosh, that part, this really dropped the ball. I was really unsatisfied. I was really, really, really unsatisfied.
Yeah, I co-sign that. Just because, I think that we probably could have had Bree with Leary, and that could have been cut down. But even just Bree spending time with Ian and the children that he has that are there with him at Lollybrock, that would have been really, I think that would have been really special. I would have loved to have seen Bree interact with that family more. And so it's just, you're right. It's one of those things, you can't fit everything in. You can't make people's schedules work. You can't, do anything like that. But the ending with Ian and then the docs and everything, it almost felt like, oh, we've actually got to get the rest of this story told in the next 10 minutes. So let's just get the ball rolling.
Yeah. Because that's what ends up happening. Like Bree is in Lollybrock. Ian tells her that Jenny is off helping to birth one of their grandchildren. And then the next thing we know, like two guys have her case, Claire's case with her clothes. And they're like, we're ready to go. We can get to the docks right now. And, they get
they were just like ready to help her out.
Yes,
and she's like, I can't take your money. And he's like, nope, we're family. Here you go. Let's get on the wagon.
Let's get on up.
Stuff to do later.
And they head to the docks, right? And, I thought like seeing Bree and Claire, like that, the sweater, like the hooded sweater
yes.
that Claire wears on to collect the rent. Like seeing Bree in that sweater was really, really emotional. It was so wonderful.
It was, when I first saw her, my heart just kind of skipped and I was like, it's so beautiful. I love that jacket. The coat was gorgeous, but
yes, sweater, coat. You are right. A hooded coat. It was really great. And like Ian's like, can you tell your cousin to write more? And just really like encourages her, right? Whereas she had this interaction with Leary, which was like, actually, your dad didn't want you. Like the interaction with Ian is like, you are your father's daughter, and I don't just mean your hair. Like you have his fire in you. He is going to be so glad to see. Like he just spends time like building her up and reassuring her, and that was I thought that was great. I really enjoyed that. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
It was sweet. I really liked it. And he, your dad, he's, going to be so excited to meet you. But he does sort of like he's like, they'll put your trunk on the ship. Are you sure you don't want me to go in? And she's like, no, I've got it. And he's just like, okay, cool.
Yeah. And that's it. Like, and she goes in. Yeah. And she's stopped by a man who wants his daughter, Elizabeth or Lizzie Weymouth, to be Bree's companion to North Carolina. So she doesn't they are indentured servants. And if Bree doesn't buy Lizzie's contract, it'll be sold to a person who wants to make Lizzie her concubine. So he says, better that she's off in the wilderness and away from me than for her to be dishonored. So we meet Lizzie, and Lizzie's on her way to North Carolina. She coming along too.
I know the way he describes these, like, he wants her as his concubine. I love, like, what Bree said, like, turned her into Claire for a moment to me. She said, then don't let him have her. Like, just very straightforward with it. But then, much like Claire, she sees this girl and she's like, I can't let this happen. So you're coming with me. I need passage for two. And then we're off. And so they leave. And as they're walking towards the ship, Lizzie's dad calls for her to turn around, tells her to remember her prayers. And that's a really beautiful scene for them because, who knows if she's ever going to see him again or not. And then Bree looks off to the side, and we're going to talk about this more in a minute, but we
can talk about it now. Why not? We can talk about it.
But she sees Frank. And this is the moment in this episode that I started tearing up. Because Frank is there and he kind of nods and smiles, and it's almost like he's giving his blessing, or he's telling Bree this is all going to be okay. Yeah. And that's exactly what she needs to get on this boat, to make this journey. Yeah. And oh my gosh, it was perfect. It was perfect in so many ways.
It really was. It really was. It was a great culmination to like all the flashbacks, which we're about to talk about. But it was, I mean, seeing Frank there, and he, you know, he looks at her, he's like smiling, he's nodding, he's taking a deep breath, right? This is it. We're gonna soldier on. This is what we do. We're gonna soldier on. And like Bree, and when Bree turns to get on that ship, like her back is straight, her head is held high, and she's ready to go. You know?
And that, I mean, Frank was always this. He always built Bree up, and he was her hero, and to have kind of like that acknowledgement as she's about to start this incredible, you know, journey, she needed that. She needed that before she started walking, and she kind of turns around. She looks away, and when she looks back, it's almost like she's about to kind of like nod or smile or something in return, but he's already gone. And
but it was just enough. It was
just enough.
Just enough, right? And it's interesting, right? I think about the flashbacks that we saw in the episode, and like I was sort of just sitting, I was thinking about, I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't expecting to have so many of them, and I was trying to think of sort of broadly what these flashbacks accomplish in terms of like the storyline and also the characters, right? So I've said this before, I'll say it again. TV Frank is way better than book Frank, for the sake of Tobias Menzies, right? But I mean, either way, Frank wasn't a nice person. He wasn't a nice person. But what redeems him in the TV show as well as in the books is the nature of him being a father to Bree, right? I think about the scene in the car where what is Bree? I can't remember what Bree says to Frank, but Frank's response is, no, I think Bree says, we're a family. And then Frank says, you're my family. You know what I mean? Like, you are, and that's the truth of it. That's the truth of it, right? Frank, this is his kid. This is his daughter. You know what I mean? And Frank pours so much love into Bree. And I very much admire and very much honor Frank for that, right? So I thought it was really great to see that in motion. We also learned through these series of these flashbacks, right? We can see that, in fact, Frank knew that Claire was telling the truth about going back through the stones. Frank found the obituary. Well, Wakefield found the obituary and sends it, right? So Frank knows that Claire was not lying and that Claire goes back again, right? And then, of course, these supposed similarities between Frank and Leary, which I don't really, fine, I get it. They were both caught up in relationships with unrequited love. I guess both were good parents. There's something to be said about that as well, but I feel like that implication wasn't very necessary to me, in my opinion. But yeah,
that one, everything you just said, I'm good where that one ends. But I like, in Frank, I agree with you about Frank's his love for Bree, and we've seen that even last season in their interactions and stuff. But this season, this episode specifically, we see just how close they were. In the first flashback scene, well, not the first one, because in the first one, he's kind of carrying her out of a car when she's very little, which is super sweet. But in the first big one, she kind of rushes into his office, and she's like, you're not going to answer your phone? And then she's kind of getting on to her dad for, staying in the office all night. She sees that he's been drinking. She sees that there's something on his desk. And she asks, what it is. And he says it's some research from a colleague in Scotland. And there are so many moments in this scene where Frank wants to say something, but can't or won't. And I know that a few people were kind of frustrated with Frank especially knowing that kind of Claire goes back and keeping that information to himself, especially her death, keeping that information to himself. And I understand that frustration, but at the same time, I'm trying to like put myself in his shoes, because this is someone who's dedicated the last 20 something years to being in this marriage. And yes, he has had an affair. I understand that. But to know, not just think, but to know that sometime in the future, Claire is going to go back and she's going to be there long enough to where she will eventually die there.
Yeah.
That whole moment is what prompts Frank to go, well, I'm gonna take a job. We're gonna get a divorce. I'm gonna take a job in Cambridge. And he tries to keep Bree with him.
Mm-hmm.
Because if Claire goes, there's that worry that he's going to lose Bree.
Yeah.
And so, yes, it's selfish, but I think that this is probably the area of his life where I can see Frank being most selfish.
Yeah.
And that's trying to keep Bree, trying to keep this daughter that he loves so much.
Yeah.
And he tells her he tells her to go home, that he can't talk to her. And he's like, Brianna, someday I promise you'll understand. And then she says, maybe someday I won't care.
Mm.
But it's just, how do you tell someone?
Yeah.
And it's also sort of Claire's story to tell.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that entire scene, you have to, I think you're right, Katie. I think that's the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak, right? This realization that, yeah, Claire, she's going to leave me. She's going to leave me, or leave this time. She's going to leave us. She's going to go back to her actual love. And what's going to happen to us? You know what I mean? So I think that's when Frank is like, look, I got to live my life. You know what I mean? I can't stick around any longer. I'm going to take this job in Cambridge. I'm going to go there with my side piece, and we're going to, well, side piece is my word. It certainly wouldn't be Frank's word, because they're in love. But what? Irregardless, which isn't a word, but right. And he's like, and I'm gonna take Bree with me, right? So that is the catalyst, seeing that obituary.
And so the next morning after, because like this isn't drawn out. Like Frank finding the obituary and his death, that it takes place within a matter of, like, I want to say like a day or so.
I think like maybe a day, maybe like 48 hours maximum. I think.
Like it doesn't take place over like several months. Like he doesn't hold this information to his chest for this long, because like the next morning, Bree comes and brings him tea and scones, because nothing can not be fixed with a good unless you have a good cup of tea and scone. And they're there, and he tells her it's perfect, and they kind of have settled back into this, and he brings up studying abroad for the first time.
Yeah.
And she's like, I haven't really thought about it. Harvard's here, you're here. I haven't really given much thought. And then the next time we see them is after Frank's already talked to Claire and has told her that he wants a divorce.
Yep.
And so up until this moment, like, I didn't think that he had seen Bree again. I had thought that after he left the house that he had gotten in a car accident and died. And so this scene was so heartbreaking for me, because you see him trying to explain this new, like, out of left field situation to his daughter, who's like, what are you talking about? You're too old to get divorced.
Yeah.
Like, you love each other.
We're a family.
We're a family. You're a family. You're my family. And he's like,
we had a plan.
We had a plan. He's like, 1,000 years ago, your mother and I had a plan too. But, sometimes life takes an unexpected turns, and you know what we do? We soldier on. And that's exactly the truth. Like, before Claire went back to the Stones, she and Frank had a plan. They were in love. They were good together.
Desperately in love with each other.
And so, you know, what do you do? What do you do now? And it's so heartbreaking to see them, that this is where their relationship, this is where it ended. Like, this is where they parted ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he tells her that he loves her and that he'll talk to her later. And she doesn't say anything back.
Yeah.
And the next time you see Bree, she's talking to his grave.
Yeah.
And she, you know, she feels guilt. She's like, maybe if I had stayed in the car, maybe we would have gone out and eaten and celebrated if I had said that, you know, I was going to go with you. And I think Frank's death and how Bree has reacted to it and how she feels responsible in some ways and holds some kind of guilt is the exact reason she goes back for Claire. Mm-hmm. Is when she realizes she has an opportunity to save a parent from death, like she couldn't save her father. Bree, that's what she's going to do. She is going to save Claire because she is going, if this is the parent she can save right now, that's what she's going to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And she even says that to Leary, jumping back a little, right? Mm-hmm. When she's like, even if Jamie is who you say, even if Jamie is exactly who you described him as, that he didn't want me, they are going to die in a fire, and I need to go back and save them, right? So it is. I think Katie, you hit the nail on the head completely. You do, right? That it is, it is this guilt. About not being able, as potentially she sees it, as Bree sees it, not being able to save her dad, that she feels it incumbent upon her to save her mom. Plus, we have to, like, I can't quite remember. I think in the book, the way that I think Bree finds the obituary in her own research, but in the context of the TV series, I think it's quite possible that either Bree, like after Roger calls her and tells her that that, you know, Jamie Fraser had, that, you know, there's confirmation that Jamie Fraser lived in North Carolina and had this wife Claire, that I think it's entirely possible that Bree went and like potentially recalled seeing something from her dad and went back to that research and like found her dad's research and saw that obituary there. I think that's entirely possible in the context of the TV series of events.
Oh yeah, I definitely think that, or that's my kind of headcanon of what happened off screen, is that Bree found that obituary in her father's things. And I mean, she knows it's from Reverend Wakefield. And so, I mean, there's so many connections within that group of people. And you know, in the letter, I paused it because I wanted to see what the letter said to Frank from Reverend Wakefield. And it says, you know, I know that you said that this was a matter of the heart. And Reverend Wakefield suggests that Frank take a leave of absence for a while to focus on his mental health and getting rest.
Really?
Yes. Like I paused it because I was like, what does this say? And it even Wakefield suggests in the second paragraph, you know, maybe you just need to take some time off. Maybe you need to take a rest and rejuvenate yourself and re-energize yourself. And I was like, you know, that wouldn't, you know, maybe if he just took some time to kind of better him, you know, kind of get him in a better mindset. But whenever he sees that information, his mind goes the exact opposite way.
It's like, I gotta go. I gotta
do it.
But I mean, I'm sorry to be redundant, guys, right? But like Book Frank was a racist. Book Frank was a misogynist. Book Frank was a serial cheater. And perhaps that, I mean, given the circumstances of the marriage with Claire, perhaps we look the other way at that sort of serial cheating, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in his relationship with Bree, that is where we see the source of the redemption. And I think the books even take it further, in my opinion. Like the books even take it further because, and again, I've only read through book 6, guys. But like from my reading, it's like not only did spoiler, potential spoiler. Sorry guys, I'm spoiling all sorts of things tonight. I'm sorry, I can't help it. But spoiler, like not only like once Frank found out that Claire was telling the truth, and it seems to me the possibility that Claire, or not the possibility, but the fact that Claire goes back, the possibility that Bree could also go back through the stones, like Book Frank systematically started preparing his daughter to live that sort of life. And I so admire, and you heard all the things that I dislike about Book Frank, but in this, I really, really honor him. And I don't know. That's me. Sorry, but also not sorry.
No, I think that I think that you would be hard pressed to find someone who was like, I admire him for his serial cheating
And
racism and misogyny and all that. But you know, we respect him for his love of Bree, and I haven't read the books. And if you've been watching these with us for a while, you know I haven't read the books, and so I don't know Book Frank. And honestly, I feel like I'm better because I don't know Book Frank. Because I feel like it would ruin this for me so much. And I really liked it. Yeah. So like, I never want to know Book Frank because Book Frank sounds like a horrible jackass. But I really do like TV Frank. And this was the highlight of the episode for me, was seeing these flashbacks with Bree and Frank, and to have the episode end with Frank and all of his support and love and pride. He's so proud of Bree when he's standing on that dock. He is so proud of what she has done and what she's going to accomplish. That was
and that he's had a hand in it, right? He's had a hand in it. That's his daughter.
That is his daughter.
That's his girl.
That's his girl. She's doing exactly what he knew that she would probably always end up doing.
Yep.
He's proud of her.
Yeah. No, it was great. It was great. It was really, really good. It was a wonderful way to end the episode. Absolutely. And I thought the acting, guys, look, I know I said that I didn't really think much of the episode. And Katie, meh. I said that. But I thought the acting was great. I thought the acting was really good. Tobias Menzies, like, to me, Tobias Menzies, he is the reason why TV Frank is like head and shoulders like above the book character. Tobias Menzies was fantastic. I mean, Sophie Skelton and Richard Rankin, I thought they were phenomenal, right? We didn't see Jamie and Claire not once in this episode, right? So it was these two and their storylines that were propelling this story forward, and propelling this episode forward. And I thought they did a good job, right? And I thought it was really important that we start to see their stories. Like, I mean, clearly this world is about Jamie and Claire, but this world is also about Bree and Roger, right? And I think tonight's episode really established that their independent storylines are very important and will continue to be very important in moving us forward. So I thought it was important to see that, and I thought Richard and Sophie were fantastic. And I mean, I know I don't like Leary, but Nell Hudson I think is a great actress. I think she did a great job tonight as well. So I thought the acting was phenomenal. I did.
Oh, I'm sitting here going, yes, everything she said, just all of that is perfect. And I mean, I've said it this whole episode, and I've got to repeat it now just because I'm a broken record. I think Tobias Menzies is fantastic. I do. I appreciate him so much. And I'm really excited to see where Bree and Roger's story goes from here, because like you said, they're kind of establishing themselves as their own independent storyline, which is important because that's where this is going. And so it's good to see them kind of come into their own as their characters, because we saw them for a longer period of time than we ever have before. And it was good to see them like that.
I agree. So friends, next week the story continues. Next week we do get back with Jamie. And guys, you remember last week we all speculated, and I'm pretty sure our friends who are watching with us and who are chatting with us, who are live chatting with us, also speculated that a conflict between Jamie and Murtaugh was coming. And based on the preview, it's seeming to me like that conflict is emerging. Jamie is going to have to make a choice. He's going to have to make a choice between saving and helping his kinsman Murtaugh, or a choice in this vow that he has made to the governor, right? And I wasn't expecting it to come up so quickly, but next week it's looking like that conflict is coming.
Yeah, I'm nervous about that, because in my mind the answer is Murtaugh. Like, you need to go help him now. But we don't know all the layers and how all that's going to work out. And it looks like next week we've got more Stephen Bonnet. But this time in the preview for next week, we have him interacting with Bree a little bit. And yeah, she's holding the ring and she asks him where he gets it. And that's in the preview for next week. So that's not a spoiler, but that's coming. And that makes me just kind of cringe a little bit, because this is not, I don't want to watch him talk to her on the Sunday before Christmas. Like, I do not want to have all these feelings like in the holiday season. Like, I'm not looking forward to it, guys.
I know. But I mean, we're gonna watch and we're gonna get through it. Like
oh, yeah, I'm gonna watch it.
You know what I'm saying? Like, all the other things that we watch and that like traumatize us, we watch, and then, you know, we come here and we have the opportunity to talk to you guys every week, which is really, I mean, it completely elevate, I think, is the SAT word for tonight, because I feel like I've said it like 80 times. But being here with you guys and you know, watching and interacting with you guys is what elevates this. And guys, like, you don't, I think you understand, right? Like, your comments are so, even when I don't necessarily agree with your comments, I find so much worth in having you guys comment and listening to what you guys and reading what you guys having to say, and even having some exchanges with you guys. I appreciate it so much. So I hope that you will keep watching, and I hope that you will keep commenting. Please do. Find us on social media. Share with your friends as well, with your Outlander circles. This is a blast, and we just want to keep the dialogue going. I think that's what's most important. Even if we sort of disagree on whether or not we like Frank or don't like Frank, even if we disagree on sort of certain motivations of the writers, etc., I think what's most important is to have that dialogue going with going in this circle in our community. So I'm happy to be here. Moral of that story, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, like, I love this. I love getting to talk about it and work through it, and I love getting to read the comments, and I love getting to read the live chat, because there's some things that, like, I don't know because I've not read the books that I find very interesting here. But I love reading the comments, because, like Fumi said, sometimes might not necessarily agree with it, but it's not something I've thought of in that way before. And I think that's really important, that we're seeing everyone's, you know, perspective and how they've interpreted this, because there's not one way of looking at it. And so by kind of opening this dialogue and this conversation, we're taking this complex story and being able to look at it from different points of view based on all these things that we have as experiences, and putting them into this. And so it's fun and it's wonderful, and it's a great community to be able to be a part of.
Absolutely. Well said. Well said. So guys, thank you very much for watching tonight. Please do comment, and please do take a look at our recap. And is it too early to wish people a happy holidays? I don't think so. We're in the holiday season, right? So
the holiday season.
Happy holidays to you. If you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas to you. Though we will see you next week before Christmas. We will see you. But again, just enjoy your time with friends and family. Enjoy your time off. Hopefully you get to take a little time off to relax. And yeah, guys, we're going to be back next week to talk about Outlander, the good, the bad, and the bonnet.
Yeah, I love that so much. Like, I have nothing else to say. Oh my gosh. I love you. I do. I adore you so much. Guys, have a great week. If you're an educator, I hope that you are finishing upgrading. I hope that you are almost on break, or that you're about to have break, and I hope you enjoy your break. From me to you. And we'll see you next week.
We'll see you.
Bad and bonnet.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.